Good day, everyone. From me, Andre Viljoen, bringing you this week's God Stories of Africa. Actually, this week I have just one God story, but it is a special one that opens with a question. Why did a group of Dutch Christians worship Jesus and pray together on a wintry public square in front of the International Court of Justice in The Hague, Netherlands on Sunday? They did it for Israel and for Christians in South Africa, explained Wim Hordenbach, preacher and co-founder with his wife Gea of Dutch outdoor worship and evangelism ministry Presence. Asked by Gateway News about their moving ministry in front of the iconic Peace Palace, where the ICJ, at the time of recording this report, was about to hand down a provisional ruling on South Africa's genocide case against Israel, he said they were there in obedience to God's call to stand with his people Israel, and they were there on behalf of millions of Jesus followers in South Africa who oppose their government's lawfare against Israel but are not able to physically take a stand in front of the ICJ themselves. Wim, a former political advisor at The Hague, shared how God called him to start Presence and then during COVID to go out onto the streets. Since then, Presence has worshipped and prayed in public places across Holland and later in other European countries. Following the leading of the Holy Spirit, they began to live stream their street outreaches and to translate them live into English. They were awed by God's wisdom as their outreaches began to reach hundreds of thousands of people, once over 1 million viewers. Sometimes hundreds of souls were saved as they worshipped on the street, as the glory of God appeared in the place, said Wim. After the murderous Hamas attack on Israel on the 7th of October, God said, "Stop the worship outreaches and pray for Israel, and I will give you the souls as well." On the 9th of October, while his team was just standing on a street in Athens, Greece, he said a group of Israeli teenagers came to them and said, "There is something with you guys. Please tell us about it." I think they recognized the Holy Spirit in us, so we told them about Yeshua, Jesus, and then after that they said, "Why didn't anyone tell us about it in Israel? Why did we have to come to Athens to hear this for the first time?" And 2 of them said yes to Jesus, and the others did not, but they heard the gospel and they rejoiced in it, said Wim. Wim, who has visited South Africa several times, representing an international men's ministry which is active here, said he used to pray for South Africa all the time, but had not done as much in recent years. But since the South African government went to the ICJ, I started to pray for South Africa again, he said. Last Sunday, as he and his team were preparing in front of the Peace Palace, a man approached him and thanked him for standing in the gap for Israel. He told him he had been walking 7 times around the palace that morning. The man was Jacob Kirkstra, the Dutch chairman of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem. He shared how 2 days before the massacre, he and a group of Christians celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles in Israel had enjoyed a meal with residents of a kibbutz near Gaza. Many of those residents were among those later slaughtered by Hamas. Wim invited Jacob to address the street gathering and their global live stream audience. He also said God repeatedly moved him to tears for Israel during the event and has given him faith for all Israel to turn to Jesus that has kept him praying steadily for the nation since Sunday. Thank you so much for joining me for today's God story. Before you leave, please subscribe to this channel if you are not already subscribed, and do like and share. It all helps hugely to get the God stories out there and to grow the channel. Well, God bless you abundantly until we meet again in next week's God Stories of Africa.